So, nice that you're all here. Thank you.
Don't say.
So before I start, um, the first thing that I want to tell you is that there is absolutely nothing that I'm going to share with you tonight that you have to believe or recognize that as you will see, the human design system is something that is empirical and it's something that you can prove for yourselves. And so I'm going to just take you through this information. If you have questions for me, save them for the end. I'll be happy to answer any questions when I get through this information. In order to take you through the design system, I'm going to have to share a lot of information with you. But before I do that, let me explain to you, first of all, why I say not to believe it. In 1987, from the 3rd of January 1987 to the 11th January 1987, on the island of Ibiza, which is an island in the Mediterranean off the coast of Spain, I was penetrated by what I call a voice. That is, I'm not somebody who had a mystical background, and that experience for me was a very profound one. And in that experience with the voice, rather than being given a set of stories or tales or whatever it may be, I was given a logical system. Perhaps they knew that I'd studied physics. Maybe they thought that would be good for someone like me. So the human design system was something that was revealed to me, and was revealed to me in detail. And my first instinct in that process was to see for myself whether it worked, because otherwise I would have assumed that I was quite mad. And the fact that it did work was something very pleasing for me, because it meant that perhaps I wasn't quite mad. And I've been sharing that information. I've been sharing that information ever since. So tonight I'm going to share with you the information of the design system. By the way, the design system is being used in over 40 countries around the world. This is my very first visit to America to share this information. It's the first time that I'm here, so I'm pleased that I have a chance to share this with all of you. I'm going to start with physics. Get all that in there. And what I'm going to start with is to tell you, first of all, and to begin with, first of all, that I am a dualist. That is, that the universe is a duality. And that duality is both expressed in the physics, and as you'll see, will be expressed in what we call the mystical side. And I'm going to start with the physics, and I'm going to start with the scientific idea of what the birth of the universe was. According to the physicists, some 15 billion years ago, an object about the size of my fist contained all the matter, all the potential matter of the entire universe compressed into this object. And at some point, 15 billion years ago, something banged into this object. And when it banged into this object, an enormous amount of material and energy was released. It's what we call the Big Bang. When that energy was released, two families of things were created. We start with the duality. That is, we start with binary information. And in that duality, and we put them under the heading here of yin and yang, in that duality, we have two very separate families. First of all, on the yin side. On the yin side, we have objects that they call the quarks. Scientists, by the way, have lovely names for these 6 quarks. They call them up, down, strange, charm, beauty, and truth. And by the way, this enormous super collider that they were trying to finance in Texas, which the American Congress shut down, this enormous super collider, one of the main things that it was there to do was to find the 6th quark, truth, and they didn't have enough money. Isn't that wonderful? Okay. Hopefully one of these days the Japanese will open up their pockets and we'll find truth. But anyway, you have the 6 quarks. As this energy expanded out into the universe, as it moved, it actually began to cool down, because the beginning was very hot. As it began to cool down, these 6 quarks coalesced into 2 things. We call them neutron and proton, and the neutron and the proton are at the center of what we call the atom. I'll get to the atom in a moment. That's with a T and not a D. On this side, the other family that was created is the Yang family. Again, the number 6 shows up here. We have 6 leptons, quarks, leptons, the yin and the yang. The leptons were originally assumed to be pure energy. The most well-known lepton is what we call the electron. There's 3 kinds of electrons. And as the universe expanded and as the universe cooled, these electrons formed an electromagnetic relationship with the neutron and the proton, and the atomic universe was created. Now, you and me, this room, this planet, all the stars, all the galaxies, and the superclusters, and everything we can imagine out there is atomic in nature. Everything that we can think of that has form and has mass is atomic in nature. You will see, by the way, that there are a lot of jokes, and this is one of them, and it's the first one, and it's the best one. If you count up all the stars and all the galaxies and all the superclusters and all of these things that fill out our universe, it only represents 10%, 1/10 of the mass of the universe. Think about that. All the stars, all the galaxies, everything you can imagine that's material, it only represents 10% of the mass of the universe. There's a lot of mass missing. They used to call it dark matter. I'm a neutrino salesman. Lectures are for free, but I'm a neutrino salesman. The neutrino is a wonderful thing. There are 3 trillion neutrinos. Great number, right? 3 trillion neutrinos. That is 3 million neutrinos that pass through everything, everywhere, all the time, at near the speed of light. Think about that. There's 3 million neutrinos pass through everything, everywhere, all the time at near the speed of light. And the reality is about the neutrino is that it's only manufactured in stars. It's a breath, literally, a breath of stars. In 1987, there was a supernova that was witnessed from South America. A star died in the sky. The moment that that star was visually seen, its death, that nova, in that moment, everybody received 3 times more neutrinos than normal for 14 minutes. We all got 9 trillion neutrinos a second passing through everything for 14 minutes. That star dies way out there in the sky, and everybody on Earth gets the information. Everybody. If you could see the neutrino stream, you could see nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. Our brains, our eyes are not designed to see them. The thing that makes the neutrino extraordinary is that in 1984, for the first time, they discovered that the largest of the neutrinos, the muon neutrino, bears an infinitesimal mass. See, they were supposed to travel at the speed of light. It would have meant that they were like the electron, but they don't. And because they don't, they have mass. This is where our story begins. Because you see, if you have 3 trillion particles pouring through you and they bear mass, so do you. This is law of friction. We are all in a program. I'm going to show you the program. We're all in a program. We're all being penetrated by the neutrinos. The neutrinos are pouring through us. They're changing us. In my experience with the boys, I was told the story about the beginning of the universe. You know, I described to you this yin egg, all the matter of the universe compressed into an object the size of my fist, the beginning of the universe. I was told that inside of this yin object was a crystal. Now, by the way, the term crystal here isn't about it actually being a crystal. What I was told in my experience was that that was the best way to understand what it is. And as you'll see, you'll discover it makes sense to use that terminology. Inside of the yin egg was a crystal, and inside of the yang object that banged into it, it takes 2 to tango. Inside of the yang object that banged into it was also another crystal. Imagine, if you will, you have these 2 objects, and they bang into each other. And at the moment that they bang into each other, the crystals that are in the core of these objects, they smash and they spread out into the expanding universe. And I mean trillions of them. They are the crystals of consciousness. We all carry the crystals of consciousness. Here in the crown head chakra, we have the personality crystal. The personality crystal manifests who you think you are. It manifests your personality. And here in the ajna center, what they call the third eye. Here we have a design crystal. Design crystal manifests your biogenetic vehicle. These crystals of consciousness are not just in human beings. Our Earth is swarming with crystals of consciousness. Plants, animals, single cell, amoebas, anything you can imagine is endowed with crystals of consciousness. These crystals of consciousness embedded here in each human being. There's also one other object. It's here in the sternum, and it's called a magnetic monopole. It's a wonderful idea of physics. It's a magnet that only attracts. This magnetic monopole holds the illusion of your body together. But it's more than that. It's like the arm that goes up from the streetcar and connects it to the overhead wire. That is, it connects you to your geometry. And where you are is who you are. Understand that by the laws of science, no two objects can occupy the same place at the same time. Where you are is your individuality. Your separateness is your uniqueness. And that is here. The best way to understand that is to think about a limousine. You got a beautiful limousine, leather upholstery, nice radio, you got oven inside, whatever you want, all kinds of goodies. This is the design crystal. This is the body, the biogenetic vehicle. Here, the magnetic monopole, this is the chauffeur. It's the driver. It knows exactly where it's going. You don't have to tell it where to go. It knows exactly where it's going. It knows its route from the beginning to the end. And here, the personality crystal, who we think we are, this is the passenger in the back seat. It's not the car. It's not the driver. It's just the passenger. Most human beings are confused about that. They would like to be the car sometimes. Most of the time, they would love to be the driver, and they are not. So, the crystals of consciousness. Now, think about something. We have two different things at work here. We have this neutrino stream that bears mass, that's the breath of stars that's pouring through everything, trillions per second. And each and every one of us are endowed with these crystals of consciousness. The human design system is a world synthesis. It belongs to all knowledge bases. And not just a matter of the exoteric sciences that we work with in the 20th century, but the esoteric sciences that are part of the tradition of humanity all over this planet. All kinds of cultures have been trying to find for themselves an answer to the same questions. And these answers that they're looking for have come to them through revelation, and various systems have developed over time. Here you can see some of the components of the design system. First of all, you'll notice that there is a wheel, and on the inside of this wheel is the traditional zodiac, the 12 signs of the zodiac. You know, astrology was our first social science, our first way of trying to make sense out of what the potential of the personality is. On the outside of this wheel, you'll see all these numbers. There's 64 of them. These numbers are from the I Ching. I Ching is great wisdom. The revelation of the I Ching was that humanity is based on 64 archetypes, and these 64 archetypes can be broken down into 6 sub-themes. Now, in the 1950s, when Crick and Watson discovered the human genetic code, our DNA system, what they discovered is that the human genetic code is made up of 64 codons, same number, 64 codons of 6 groups of amino acids each. Isn't that familiar? So, in the language of the I Ching, we have the genetic code. The astrology understands the nature of the personality. The genetic code literally understands the inherited genetic structure of the being. In the center here, in this body graph, This body graph is made up of 9 energy centers. These energy centers are from the chakra system. And literally, this is a revelation of understanding what we would call in our modern language the glandular system within the body. How the energy and information is transformed within the body system and move through the body system. And between these centers are channels. These channels are opened by gates at either end. There are 64 gates, which will code them to the wheel, as you'll see. And these channels in between move the energy between the centers. These channels are from the Tree of Life, from the Kabbalah, actually from the Zohar, not from the Kabbalah. In our language today, we would call that quantum. What the channels represent is the fact that as energy moves from one end to the other, the energy is transformed as it moves, and these channels are transforming agents. Now, you know, being trained as a physicist, and I was never mystical, and I was never spiritual. I used to have people tell me about astrology, and I'd say, okay, prove it to me. Wasn't anybody who was going to be able to prove it. Here I am, I stand up here today. Human design system is based on astrological calculation. So let me explain to you for the first time why astrology works. Imagine for a moment that outside of this wheel you have a star field. There is one. Enormous star field. Every single one of these stars is producing neutrinos. And they're all streaming through. It was interesting that this year in the Catholic Church, the Pope reiterated the standing of the church that astrology was not something that one should study because the planets are a bad thing. Jesus said that, by the way. Jesus said, don't study the planets. The ancient mystics knew something. Really, in ones recognized something about the planets, and the planets were all a curse. Because you see, the planets get in the way of the starlight. So imagine for a moment what happens. Let's say that you got this stream of neutrinos pouring through and the planet Mars gets in the way. This stream's for real. It bears mass. And Mars gets in the way and it goes through Mars. And when it goes through Mars, whatever Mars it is as a mass, Mars changes that stream. And then it comes into our crystals. You see, every single one of us have an aspect of the original crystals, but they're cut differently. I have 2 crystals in my hand, and they're cut differently, and I put the same source of light through these 2 crystals. What's going to come out is a different image on the other side. That's us. We are all in the same information stream, but we all process that information uniquely. So when that neutrino stream is pouring through Mars, and Mars is changing it, it comes through our crystals, leaves off its information, and the crystals pass the information to the centers, and the centers pass it to the glands, and the glands pass it to the organs, and you've got yourself a life. Because that's the way it works. So, when somebody says, prove astrology, yes, it's possible. This is the way it works. Those objects, they get in the way of the stream. And when they get in the way of the stream, they change the stream. Something else to think about that I like. I've been on this planet 45 years. Neutrinos travel at nearly the speed of light. As that neutrino stream passes through me, they pass through my crystals as they pass through yours. They don't just leave off their information, but they're changed. We change the stream too, because it's all a matter of friction. And that stream goes out. It goes out in every single direction. So if you go out into space 45 light years, that's far. Go out 45 light years in every direction, my information's up there. All of us, constantly, are beaming, all the time, what we are, who we are, as we are, out into space. I've touched thousands of stars in the stream that pours through me, that is changed by me, and goes back out into the world. This is a individual human design calculation chart. First of all, you can see that there are two wheels and that there is a body graph in the center. Before I can even explain to you how this works, I'll share with you the strangest thing that I'll share with you tonight, which is how life begins. You know, not all the crystals of consciousness are in manifestation. There are zillions of them. The shell of the life force of this planet that aren't in bodies. Personality crystals are in orbit around planet. You're passing through this room. If you could stand beside a bundle of them, caught in the geometry, you might think that it was the Virgin Mary, or a UFO, or a ghost, or spirit. It's what people call the things they channel with. These are clusters, crystals outside of manifestation. As the stream pours through the crystals, some of us are designed to be able to interpret that frequency of information. The design crystals that manifest this biogenetic vehicle, these design crystals are within the crust of the earth. You know, there is no choice. I will show that to you. At the moment that a life is going to be conceived, the magnetic monopole of the male calls up the design crystal. All design crystals out of manifestation have their own magnetic monopole embedded in them. The magnetic monopole of the male calls up a design crystal. It's a frequency in the geometry. It comes into the male's solar plex center. This is the emotional center. This channel here, as you'll see later, this channel here is the channel of reproduction. Only when this channel is colored in can a child come into the world. And at the moment that this crystal comes into the solar plex center, at the moment of conception, at the moment of orgasm, it is this crystal that is in the sperm that will be able to go through this channel. It will penetrate the ovum. In the female, in the sacral center, this is the sexuality center. Life begins with the chemistry. In the center of the chemistry is a design crystal with its magnetic monopole. And as the neutrino stream pours through the mother, it pours through the crystal of the fetus, that single cell, that design crystal begins to manifest the biogenetic vehicle of what will ultimately be a human being. These two wheels, this wheel here represents the design of the personality crystal. This would be what an astrologer would call a natal chart. That is, this is a calculation that's made at the moment of birth, time, place. This wheel over here, this wheel is 88 degrees of the sun before birth. You see, 88 degrees of the sun before birth. In order for the biogenetic vehicle to be human, in order for it to receive its soul, the soul comes into the body, what's called here the personality crystal, comes into the body 88 degrees of the sun before birth. Doesn't matter whether you're an 8-month baby, or 9-month baby, or a 7-month baby. In order for the personality to manifest in the vehicle, it must have 88 degrees of the sun, which is approximately 88 or 89 days in the vehicle before it can come out into the world. This personality chart, the birth, if you go back 88 degrees of the sun, if you go back 88 days, 89 days, you then have the exact moment that the personality or the soul enters the body. And for 88 degrees of the sun, which is the same 88 days, it takes Mercury 1 year on the planet Mercury, messenger of the gods. For the personality to develop, it must have 88 degrees of the sun within the body. These two charts are then calculated. Synthesis Like the television set. Nobody knows who invented the television set. Television set happened. It's made up of all kinds of components that came together. This synthesis of the human design system is not astrology. It is not the I Ching. It is not the chakra system. It is not Kabbalah. It's human design. It is a synthesis of it. In these charts, there is no house system. There is no ascendant. And the earth is used. That is, the earth is always opposite the sun. Always. It is where we get our grounding. To know where your earth is to understand where you need to find your rooting, where you need to be grounded. So, in this system, as you can see, the coding factor here is the genetic code. The genetic code as it's represented through the I Ching. So let me give you an example. Here on the personality side, you have, it's hard for you to see that, but this is the planet Mercury here, and Mercury is in the 7th hexagram. And this 7th hexagram is here as the 7th gate. This is just a very simple coding system. When the astrological configuration is made in the human design system in the book, there is an index that gives you the actual position for every single hexagram and line. So you can take any astrological calculation and find out exactly what hexagram it is, exactly what sub-theme it is. This 7th hexagram here opens up this 7th gate here. From the other side, for example, we have the node of the moon here that's in the 12th gate. This is pink, coded pink on this side. Here's the 12th gate here. In other words, the information just gets transferred. 2 calculations are made. The calculations are translated into the hexagrams of the I Ching. This information is then translated to the body graph. The human design system is being used by psychologists and psychiatrists and all kinds of therapists because it is the easiest and most efficient way to recognize where the unconscious is. Because this wheel over here is prenatal wheel. This prenatal wheel is your biogenetic inheritance. It's what you inherited from your genetic pool, from your parents, your grandparents, going all the way back. This information, when it gets coded into the body graph, shows you where the unconscious is at work within you. What comes from the personality side, like astrology, shows you the potential of the personality. That is, where you are conscious of this energy is these gates that are opened in black. So you get both pictures. You get to make contact with what is conscious. You get to make contact with what is unconscious. Human design system is literally, and you can only know this from your own experience, is the most detailed insight into the nature of who you are. It's not like an astrological reading. It's extremely profound. It's an absolute, as you will see. By the way, my apologies for the fact that these are in German, because I just came from my European tour, and I discovered too late that I had my German transparencies instead of my English ones, but I will make up the difference for it, so it'll be okay. This is a human design analysis chart. This is the kind of analysis chart that I use when I work with people. I've done individual analysis now for over 3,000 people. In this particular case, these 2 wheels disappear, and they're simply replaced by the information. In the human design system, part of this box set, there is an I Ching that is specially written for this. And this I Ching breaks down all this information. That is, in human design, you do not have to make up or develop out of your memory or out of your experience what these energies mean. It's all of it written down. I teach the human design system in 8 days. Anybody can learn how to use it, not just to see who you are, to be able to use this energy on a day-to-day basis, to understand what affects you, see what changes you, And more than that, the human design system isn't just about planets. Its most important aspect is it shows you your relationship to other human beings. Some of the most important work I do in design is that once you know your own design and you compare it to somebody else's design, you get to see exactly where you connect, how you connect, what the connection means, the exact information. So this is an individual design. Here on this side, you have the unconscious. And you can see, for example, the sun, the unconscious, the design sun is in the 4th hexagram, and these little numbers above give you the sub-theme. So this would be the 4th hexagram, the 3rd line. You can just open that up, and you can look exactly at the 4th hexagram, and you can look at the 3rd line, and you can see exactly what that energy is. This 4th hexagram opens up the 4th gate, a coding system again. You can see that there's 2 birthdays. There is the date of birth, black, coded black, and you can also see this is the exact moment that the soul or the personality crystal entered into the body. Everybody who has a chart done gets these 2 sets of information. So before I go in and explain how an analysis is done, let me give you some background into these various centers. First of all, a human being. A human being has the potential for 3 different areas of awareness. Each of these areas of awareness have the same capacity to guide the life, but they operate differently. This is the mental field of awareness. This is the head center. The head center, as you can see, is the only center that is outside of the physical form. Like antennae, this is open to outside energies. This is the head center, inspiration, where we take the information in. And this is the ajna center, where we conceptualize. This is the mental field of awareness. Inspiration, conceptualization. The mind's frequency is all time. You can have a problem today. You can have it tomorrow. You can have it to the end of your life. You can always think about it and always go back and forth and mull it over. That's the frequency of the mind. The oldest awareness system that we have is the splenic system. This is our intuition and our instinct. The splenic center is very important. Aren't they? This is the center of our immunity. This is our protection from disease. It is the splenic cell that coats invading bacteria so that it can be identified and then destroyed. Here in the splenic system is where we also destroy bad vibrations, the pain that comes from life. And this system here, this instinct and intuition, it only operates in the now. Only in the now. It's our oldest awareness. It comes from our animal awareness. It only functions in the now. And if you don't hear it in the now, it does not come back and say, hey, I just told you something. It doesn't work. Only in the now. Over here, solar plex center, this is the emotional awareness. The emotional awareness is unlike the mental awareness and the splenic awareness for 2 reasons. One, it carries enormous energy, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But the other is about its frequency. Because it's also a very powerful energy system, the emotional awareness works on a wave. So if you're an emotional being, and somebody says something to you, you can go way up. If you make a decision when you're up here, you're not using emotional awareness, you're using emotional energy. It can also drop you way down. And if it drops you way down, you make a decision when you're deeply depressed. You're not working on emotional awareness, you're only using emotional energy. The frequency of the emotions is a wave pattern, and you always have to wait until that wave comes back and is neutralized in order for you to use that emotional awareness. In a human being, there are 4 motors. First one here is the heart center. It's the center of ego and willpower. It is the energy of the will. It is the energy of the ego. The emotional center, as I described, is also a motor. which makes it the most complex awareness. Because not only is it an awareness, it is an energy. Here, the sacral center, the sexual energy, and here at the root, what they call Kundalini, this is the adrenaline center. This is our most primitive and vital energy source. These four motors, this center here, this is the throat center. The throat center is the most complex. It has 11 gates that open up from it. The throat center is the center of manifestation. So in this case, you have a connection here between the ajna center, conceptualizing, and the throat center, manifestation. By the way, in design, when a channel is colored in like this, open from the top, open from the bottom, both in colored in, then the centers get colored in. There's a circuit board. And when that center is colored in and those channels are colored in, it's called definition. If I ask all the people who know this man to describe him to me, they will all describe this, 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 and this. Because it's defined, it does not change. Nobody can change it. And it's the only thing that this human being can trust. Only what's defined in you can you trust. He cannot trust his instincts and his intuition. It is not defined. It will come and go. He cannot trust his ego. It is not defined. He cannot trust this adrenaline energy. He cannot trust his inspiration. They are not defined. The only thing that he can trust is what's defined. When the ajna center, the center for conceptualization, is connected permanently to the throat, you have somebody who can talk. As a matter of fact, will talk you a blue streak because you can't turn that off. It's just like me. I have it. You just keep on talking. If you don't have that, it's not easy to talk. It's not easy to express yourself. It's not easy to say what you want to say. This connection, this definition, this center here, this is the self. We call it the higher self. But this is the self, and the self is silent. It becomes alive when it's connected outwards. Here, the self is connected to the throat. This is somebody who can always talk about themselves, and will. And here, through this channel, the throat is connected to one of the motors. Now, remember I started by telling you I'm a dualist. There are two kinds of people. There are doers, and there are people who are not. This is a doer. This is a doer because these motors are connected to the throat, and the throat is always the key. When the throat is connected to a motor, you can do, and you can always do. If it's not, you wait. These are people that are always chasing after other human beings. Always looking for somebody that they can hook into, the energy that they can hook into, so that they can get their doing done. Because otherwise they can't. These are people that are always saying yes. You know, will you help me? Yes. Okay, so look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples of how this works. Let's start up here with the mental centers. You can see that there's three channels. They're very different. This side over here is the abstract side. This 64th gate is the gate of confusion. Now, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I am amoral. There's no judgment in this. There's no good design. There's no bad design. There's no better design. There's no worse design. This gate here is a gate of somebody who has an enormous amount of information going on in their head. This is the gate of dreamers. This is the gate of people that, when their friends say to them, you know, you should really meditate, these are people that have an enormous problem with that. Because they can't. They can be made to feel very uncomfortable by the fact that they can't. All of these gates that open up from the top all represent pressure. And this is the pressure of having all this data up here. But as you can see, no way to bring that through. Now look, there's two ways in which a human being feels change in their life. One is that the program is there. In the human design system, there is an ephemeris. This is the month of December. There's an ephemeris, and this translates the positions of the planets into where they are in the body. Anytime, once a month, the moon will open this gate at the other end. Once every 28 or 29 days, the moon will open up that 47th gate, and at that moment that the moon opens up the 47th gate, that person will be able to release that energy. This channel is the channel of making sense out of things. The top end is the confusion, the 47 is the realizing. So when that gate opens up, all this confused information, suddenly they can realize what that means. But you can't ask these people to back it up. You can't say to them, how do you know that? These are people who make sense out of things. It's not about facts. They realize this is an abstract process. This human being, because it's unconscious from the pink side, they have no way of dealing with this confused information. You can't go up into his head and say, what is all this about? It's just there. All this data, all this pressure, simply there. The other side over here, this is the logic side of the brain. And the logic side starts with the 63 at the top. This is doubt. So if you have somebody that has the 63rd gate, they always doubt. The other side, the 4, is the ability to be able to formalize. This is the channel of understanding as opposed to the channel of sensing. And so, for example, I have the 4 in my own design. I love the 63s. They bring their doubt, but they're very inspiring. And the moment that I get the doubt, I get a new set of information that I have to find a formula for in order to make it into understanding. This center channel here goes right down through the center of the body. The abstract side, the logic side belong to the collective. But the center, this is unique. And it belongs to the individual. This 61 is something that all of us are going to experience on this planet starting this month for about 2.5 years. Planets Neptune and Uranus, the 61st gate is in Capricorn. Planets Neptune and Uranus are about to open up this gate. If anybody wants to know when the beginning of the end is, we're about to start that process because inner truth is going to be available for everybody. But if you don't have the 24, you're not going to be able to move that through. You'll get the moon coming through, the planets coming through. You'll have your opportunities. Nice to have 24 people in your life. I'm somebody who has 61, but I don't have the 24. My publisher has the 24. The moment I explained to him what I was doing, he understood because he was able to receive that information and make sense out of that information. This is the channel of knowing. Knowing is going to be available for the whole planet. It's a program. Deep knowing. Solving mysteries. Like in the biological brain, these energies cross. This abstract side, confusion, needing to make sense out of it, realizing, comes over to this 1156. This 11th gate is the gate of ideas. Realizing then gets manifested as an idea, as a concept. And this idea can then find its way through to this 56th gate. It becomes stimulation. Stimulating others, stimulating more ideas, the abstract process. The logic side from the doubt that is formalized, so there's understanding. This moves over to this side. The 17th gate is the gate of opinion. And the opinion can only be grounded through the 62nd gate, which is the gate of detail. So logic comes out as opinion. The abstract comes out as ideas. And the center channel, this 43, is the gate of insight. Individual insight, not part of the collective. This 1762, this logic side, is the channel of an organizational being. Opinion backed up by detail. The 1156 is the channel of the searcher and the seekers. The channel of curiosity, ideas, and stimulation. This center channel 4323 is the channel of individuality, channel of structuring. By the way, it's subtitled From Genius to Freak. Individuals who cannot express themselves clearly, cannot make their own unique insight understood, will always be considered rather strange and shunned. The moment that they can make that information understood, and slowly they will get the respect of others, because it is only through insight that what is new and what is unique can then come out into the collective. So this man here, he has a 4323. This is conscious. You can see at the top here of the personality, his sun is in 43. The earth is in 23. There are 3 channels, for those of you who are familiar with astrology. There are 3 channels here that are actual oppositions in the zodiacal chart. 43 is in Scorpio, 23 is in Taurus. They're exactly opposite each other. This man has his earth, his conscious earth in 23. He gets his grounding out of sharing his insight with others. And that's what he's always doing. Makes him feel good. He makes other people a little comfortable. It makes him feel good. The self. The self is a wonderful thing. If I take you back to this illustration for a moment, this G center, the self, is actually formed by 2 great crosses in the zodiac. From the 10 to the 15, these are cusp hexagrams. The 10 is partially in Sagittarius and partially in Capricorn. The 15, Gemini, Cancer. On the other side, the 25, the gate of innocence, Pisces and Aries. And here, the 46, gate of good fortune, pushing upward. This is in Virgo, Libra. This forms 1 cross, and these 4 gates are inside this center. The second cross is known mystically as the Sphinx. It comes from Aquarius, the 13, and crosses to the 7 in Leo, and from the 1, the youngest of hexagrams in Scorpio, to the 2, the Yinnest, the receptive, in Taurus. These 8 gates represent the opening hexagrams of the 8 Chinese houses, and also touch all 12 signs of the zodiac. In fact, in the center of every human being is the microcosm of the totality, and that is what we call the self. Here you can see that this man has a definition between the throat center and the self. This channel, all colored in, the 8 and the 1, all conscious. The 8 is from the south node, the 1 is from his Mercury, opening up this channel. This 1 is the need of the self to express itself. And the 8 is the ability to take this creative energy and bring this creative energy into form. This channel is called the creative role model. These are people that are examples for others, expressing themselves, bringing it into form. Also part of this whole central configuration. Here, for example, you have something different. This channel over here is a channel of leadership. The top end is called influence. That is, once this person has a chance, they can be very influential. But they don't know, because what's missing here, the 7th, they don't know what role to play. They don't know whether to be the boss or wait to be elected. They don't know what to do because they don't have the role, because this 7th gate is the role of the self in interaction with others. And the moment that they meet somebody who has that 7th gate, together they can be leaders. Together that influence can manifest because the role is then understood. Here, the 2034, this connection here, this is the channel of charisma. The 20th gate is the only existential gate. This is the potential to be aware in the now, unconsciously in this case. And this 34th gate is the most powerful of all the gates. Pure, powerful energy, asexual energy coming out of the sacral center. This is charisma, where thoughts become deeds. This is a man whose awareness can always be turned into action. He's really somebody who should be careful with that, but nonetheless, this is somebody whose thoughts can always become action. Here, the splenic system is the body's feel-good system. Under ordinary circumstances, this is somebody who really doesn't need anybody else. He's got the motors, He's got it connected to the throat so he can do. It's connected to the self so he knows who he is. It's connected to the mental awareness so he can work it out on the mental plane and trust it. But the fact is, this splenic system, the feel-good system, the body's laundry, is not connected. This person never feels good about himself. No matter what all these gifts are. Because there's no way that he can clean out that energy. This is the feel-good center. And if it's not connected, he doesn't feel good, no matter what he's doing. You know, he does something terrific, you come over, you pat him on the back, you say, it's great. He says, well, could have been better. Could have been this, could have been that. The moment anybody comes and either connects here, or connects here, or connects here, that center gets turned on. And anybody who comes into his life who hooks that up at first, they're going to feel good to him. They may, in fact, not be good for him, but the first feeling is they're going to feel good. And the other thing is that these people that make him feel good can hold him to blackmail because they can take it away. It's so easy to break a connection. I remind people that when you walk by a stranger, the street, they penetrate you as deeply as if you were making love to them. It's about auras. The time you step into somebody's aura, you connect. And where you connect is going to change you. In the same way that as the planets move and they open and close all these gates, they change us. Let me give you an example. This channel here is the channel of talent. The top end of this, the 16th hexagram, is the hexagram of enthusiasm, the ancient Chinese hexagram of music and dance and the arts. It is the mechanical skills of creativity in form. This 48th gate, this is the well. This is the sweet water waiting to be drunk. This is the deep resource. Classic example, John Lennon had 48, Paul McCartney had 16. Together they form the channel of talent. Now imagine what happens to this man. Let's say that he's a 12-year-old boy. And he's a 12-year-old boy and he's going out of school one day. And as he's walking out of school, the planet Pluto opens up the 16th gate. Now Pluto's facing the gate for nearly 3 years. So as he's about to walk out the door, he hears a piano. Just as Pluto opens the channel of talent. But it's not just the channel of talent opening up. Suddenly he really feels good. There's a feel-good center, connective. And he opens up the door and he goes into the room and there's a teacher here playing the piano. And he goes home that night and he says to his mother, you know what, you want to play piano? Well, pianos are expensive. And she says to him, well, why don't you go take lessons? See if the teacher will give you lessons. And he goes and he takes the lessons. Remember, 3 years. And he goes and he takes lessons and he's very good. And one day the teacher calls up the mother and she says, you know, you should really get him a piano because he's really good and he loves it and he really works at it. So they go out and they get him a piano and everything's terrific. Year after year, everything's fine. And then one morning, Pluto goes away. Whoosh. It's over. It's not that he will forget what it is to be a piano. It will never be important again. It will never be his life again. Because the energy is gone. Oh yeah, once a month the moon will come by. And if he's awake, maybe he'll go over to the piano and tinkle a little bit. And once in a while, other planets will come and open it up for 5 days or 6 days or 7 or whatever it may be. But it's never going to be consistent again. It's over. Now think about it if we're talking about relationships. This same guy goes into a bar and he sits down feeling terrible because he always feels terrible about himself. He sits down, he's feeling terrible, and at the moment he's feeling terrible, the moon, which only opens the gate for about 11 and a half hours, comes along and opens up that gate. And at the same moment that the moon opens up that gate, he turns and sees a woman, and suddenly he feels terrific. You know what he's going to feel like in the morning because the moon is going to be gone. It's so important to understand that each and every one of us have within us what is defined and what we can trust and what is not defined. These potentials that are all waiting to be connected. Each and every one of us, ignorance is not bliss, it's pain. You do not understand what's happening to you, you're going to suffer. Human beings don't know what's going on, so they're always making up reasons. He will make up a reason why he doesn't want to play the piano anymore. I don't like it. What's nothing to do with that. These are just connections. This is just a little glance from the ephemeris. This is the November just passed. And what you have in this ephemeris is that you have the planets all across the top, Sun and the Earth and Moon, the nodes, Mercury, Venus, Mars, so forth and so on. Going down the side here, you have all the days of the month. So for example, here's the Sun on the first day, and underneath it has these numbers. 44, that's the gate. There's the 44th gate. And the 2 beside it is the line that it's in. You can actually look up this information. So for example, let's say that you have the 26. The 26 is coming out of the ego center. This is the egoist. And the 44 is coming out of the cleansing center. It's called coming to meet. This whole channel, when it's opened up, is the channel of transmission. These are people who can be very public. The cleaned ego can go out into the world. So you can see here that for 5 days in the month of November, here's the Sun opening up this 44th gate. If you have the 26th gate, it's going to change you. Not only is it going to change you, but you can see exactly what that change is. You can read it exactly and see the energies that are affecting you. Remember, I told you there's no choice. And it's not about believing. I don't want anybody to believe this. I'm only sharing knowledge with you. The reality is you can find out for yourself. The moment you know your own design, the moment you follow your own design in the program, you're going to see right away that all the things that are going on in your life, not only are they being manifested through the movement of the planets, but it's the people as well in your life. You no longer need to make up reasons for why you are the way you are. This is this man's partner. Very different picture. Here we have somebody who has split definition. There are many kinds of definition. Here you have this system is connected and this system is connected, but they're not connected to each other. Split definition. Somebody who is 2 things. There are triple split definitions. The most extreme is quadruple split definition. Well, that's very rare. So let's take an example. Here's this woman. She's got this connection here, 63-4. Remember, this is a doubt. She always doubts. But you can always find a way through that doubt and understand, but it's all coming from the unconscious. She's got this logic system that's working in her, but it's an unconscious system. She doesn't always have access to it. But more than that, there's no connection between the conceptualizing and the throat. Sometimes she can't say anything at all. And the only way that she's ever going to be able to express herself is if one of these other potentials get connected. And because it's very confused in her, because she can open up all of them, sometimes she's got her opinions, and sometimes she brings out her insight, and sometimes she's stimulated by ideas, but she has no control over it. And she has no idea what she's going to say until it comes out, whether it's going to come out at all or not. Just wait and see. You know, I've been a teacher, a formal teacher most of my life. We're now doing experiments in Europe where we have 3 private schools that have agreed to allow us to place students properly in the classroom so that they all have a potential, so that this child gets to express itself as easily as the child that has the fixed connection. This woman has undefined self. She is never going to know who she is. You know what the New Age does to people like that? You know how cruel that is? You have to know who you are. I'm going to show you. Blah, blah, blah. This is an undefined self. When she goes to the line that she crosses over that we call death, she's going to be able to look back and she's going to be able to see, aha, that was me. Because she's here to be all of it. If you could meet her friends, each one would describe a different person. Because she's different with everyone she meets. She doesn't have a fixed self. It changes. Sometimes she's this way and sometimes she's that way. It's never consistent. And it's not about better or worse. Don't feel sorry for her. You see, these centers aren't empty. They're not broken and they don't need to be fixed. They're an enormous potential to be aware. Look at this emotional system. I know, because for 38 years, I was what you might call a total emotional basket case. I have an undefined emotional system. So every time somebody would come along and hook it up, every time a planet would come by and hook it up, I would suddenly be filled with emotion. I would get angry or happy or whatever it may be, and not know why. Go running around inside of my system trying to make sense out of that. Why am I feeling like this? No answer. You know, I've sat with thousands of people in under analysis, and sometimes they come in, they're so nervous. They bring these big, powerful emotional systems, and they sit down beside me and go, whoosh, and I start to tremble inside. But you know, I don't identify. It's them. It's not me. It's not my emotion. It's them. And I go, I have nothing to say. Calm down. You bring all that stuff inside of me. You see, the moment that you don't identify with your vulnerabilities is the moment that you have a deep, 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 deep insight into every single human being that comes into your life. I do not teach people to love their neighbor. I teach them to love themselves. And if you're going to love yourself, you're going to need to have allies in your life that accept you for what you are. If you're somebody that can only make sense out of things, that's somebody in your life that accepts that that's what you know and that's what you can do. Not challenge you. If you have an undefined self, you can't have somebody pointing their finger at you and saying, who are you? There is no answer to that. If you have an undefined emotional system, and you have somebody pumping in that emotion into you, you know, people, you have to understand. This kind of vulnerability without the awareness, this is somebody who's just going to suffer. Suffer emotionally, suffer in the self, suffer the frustration of not being able, there's a very powerful mind, not being able to consistently bring that awareness out. Here's this splenic system. You can see in her case, it's strongly defined. She's a healthy being. When she steps into a room, everybody feels good. But she doesn't know it. She's the kind of person, when she walks out of the room, she says, I wonder if they like me. Because this feel-good of hers isn't connected to her mental awareness. She doesn't know that. And in order for her to be healthy, she's going to have to meet somebody who makes the bridges between these two fields. She's never going to feel complete. You know, it used to be that Saturn was the timekeeper. In this particular system, Uranus is used as a timekeeper. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the wheel, modern lifespan. And in the design system, this lifespan is divided between the south node phase and the north node phase. Sometimes between the age of 38 and 42, we go from our south node phase to the north node phase. This is our destiny. This is our line of geometry. So, for example, this 44 of hers this unconscious South Node phase. This is a theme for her life on the unconscious level for the first half of her life. You can see that's here, this 44. She can't fulfill that destiny herself. The only way she's going to be able to fulfill that unconscious destiny is if she has a contact, a person in her life who has the other side, or when the planets come and open up that possibility. Here, the conscious theme for the first half of her life, this 28, this is a channel of struggle, channel of stubbornness. And for her, the only way she's going to make contact with this destiny is when the other end is available for her. And through the struggle, through the fight, she meets her destiny. The same is true for all these fields. Like the earth, where we get our grounding, where we get our rooting. That is here, for example, this one. In order for her to get her conscious grounding for the rest of her life, once she gets in, for the whole process of her life, she has to meet somebody that can bring that creative energy of hers to form. Through design, you get to see exactly how you connect and where you need to connect. This is a composite chart. And it's one of the wonders of design. In this particular chart, what's done is that the female Marguerite and the male Reiner, they're coded in two different colors. It's not a matter of conscious or unconscious, just a matter of coding them. Every single opening that either one has, every single potential that either one has, it's on this side, every single potential is then colored in. On this side, as I'll show you in a moment, is used for transits. It's used to see how they are affected as a couple by the changing energy. But this side over here shows you what the fixed relationship is. So let's take a look. If you remember, Reiner, the man, he had an undefined well-being system. And you can see as a couple, he doesn't anymore. She makes him feel good. And you can see that she had this here and this here, these two separate fields, undefined self, undefined throat. All of that now is integrated because he has made the bridges. She makes him feel good. He gives her an opportunity to bring her awareness out. By the way, in these composites, there are different kinds of connections that exist. The first kind is electromagnetic. That is, one partner opens up one end of a channel, the other partner opens up the other end. This is what we call love and hate. This is attraction and repulsion. This is the basic dynamics of a relationship. And so you can see what is underlined here. These four are the electromagnetic connections that exist between the two of them. You remember that he had the gate of confusion. She releases that confusion into realization. That's an electromagnetic connection between them. She's really a gift for him. So you finally move this confusing energy through. Here, she brings the grounding for him into the well-being system through these two electromagnetic connections. By the way, this channel here, like this, is the channel of the archetype. This is an archetypal relationship. She brings the deep intuition, he brings the power. Here, the electromagnetic connection between the intuition and the awareness in the now. Together, they have a penetrating awareness. As a couple, they have single definition. Everything is connected together. The second kind of connection is called compromise. Compromise is when one partner has the whole channel and the other partner has part of the channel. Now, compromise is a bit of a misnomer. The one who carries the whole channel is the one that dominates that theme. This channel here is about values. She controls the values in the relationship. He goes along with them because she's fulfilling him with that energy. The third kind is called dominance. Dominance is when one partner brings a whole connection by themselves. The other partner simply has to live with that connection. The fourth kind, which is not in this fixed relationship, these are gates of companionship, when both partners open up the same channel together. They are both open to the same experiences together. This is companionship and partnership. What's important about this side is that as the program moves, relationships change. We think we have a certain kind of relationship, and then the next moment there's something different in it. These are what I call loose cannons. This gate over here, this 28, you can see that in a basic relationship, it's not there because it doesn't form a definition. On this side, there's only definition because it shows you the real foundation of the relationship. But here on this side, it's always a potential. So imagine for a moment, they meet, fall in love, come together, and then from 1987 to 1990, Neptune and Uranus opened up this 38th gate. A whole generation of people went through hell. This is the channel of struggle. All of a sudden, this struggle would be in the relationship. It wasn't there before. All of a sudden, it shows up. You don't understand why. All of these possibilities, this center channel here is a channel of emoted. It's the most emotional channel. The moment a planet comes and opens this 39, there's suddenly all of this motion in the relationship that wasn't there in the fixed relationship. So by looking at your partnership and being able to see what can change it, it also makes your relationship much healthier. There are no more surprises about that. You don't have to wonder why suddenly there's a different kind of energy in the relationship. There is a way to see what that is, and to recognize that in detail. My last picture. My no choice picture. I'll stop sign. I have a lot of people, I get all kinds of reactions to no choice. There is choice, by the way. We all live out roles. That's what our design is. We all have a role that's designed. Some of us are designed to be responsible. Some of us are designed to be irresponsible. We seem to make choices all the time. That is the role. It's not the reality. Underlying all of this is simply no choice. It's design. What I was told by Forrest was that the entire universe is non mortis. That what we call the Big Bang was a conception. We're part of an evolving consciousness. When people tell me about free will, I remind them that we're traveling at 445,000 miles an hour in space. I'd like to see anybody step out of that vehicle and go where they want to go and do what they want to do. If I take an electron microscope and I go into your body, I will see nothing. Nothing but empty space. There's nothing there but energy vibrating. This whole business about thinking that we have a freedom to choose this or to choose that, it's not true. There is no choice. There's an enormous freedom in the recognition of that. Every single great teacher that's ever been on this planet said the same story. Buddha said, body's not yours. It's the wisest things ever said. The design system, as a revelation, is here to give us the evidence of that, proof of that, physical proof, concrete proof. I never, ever, ever would have stepped out into the world, shared a belief system